All right, we are
Yeah,
8
right.
p.m. sharp. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Referral Highway tonight. And it is my absolute privilege to be here today and to have our guest, Jackie Lim, okay, here to share a little bit about professional communication in this online world and how NLP, commonly known as Neuro Linguistics Programming, can help people like you and me be a bit more professional on the digital platform. Okay, let's start the ball rolling with some light-hearted questions first. So Jackie, maybe for my friends who are tuning in right now who don't know about you, because you and I, we go way back, right? So maybe we
Yeah.
start with some some questions. How did you meet me, or did we meet each other from your perspective, right?
Wow, that must be really ages,
Yeah, maybe 10
ago.
years or more than 10 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
more
Maybe.
than 10 years. And I could still remember the first time I met you, Vernon, was in this, it was a Toastmaster setting. And you were just a student back then. And but I could really see that leadership quality in you. You were so committed to organizing those workshops and talks and bringing in the best trainers in to share their expertise. I don't know whether you could still remember those days.
Yeah. I I remember. Yeah, because back then when I was a Toastmasters, I was a special projects chair, so it was my job to actually bring in trainers in to speak. I think that's where we got to meet each other, right? So
Yeah.
so that was your first memory of me, I guess.
Yes, and that very long hair of yours, you still remember?
Oh, so you mean when you met me the time I was
Yeah.
sporting my at that time
Yeah.
shoulder length hair, right?
Yes, it just reminds me of those rock singers.
Yeah. I think if I'm not wrong, I think now I am like, yeah, I think that time really flies. That must be almost like 10 years ago, right, Jackie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Jackie, because over the years we have developed a mentor-mentee relationship over the years, because I actually
Mm,
learned and understudy neuro-linguistics programming from you. Can we
mm,
just check with you, Jackie, because you have mentored and coached many people. What are some of
mm,
the qualities that you look out for in mentees or people that you potentially coach? What are the
mm.
qualities you look out for?
Well, Vernon, that's a very, very good question. And I think over the years, I've coached and trained over thousands of individuals from diverse backgrounds. I think one thing that truly stands out for me, is this thing called teachability. So at the end of the day, I think Vernon, you would also agree with me as a trainer and coach yourself that ultimately, it's really, I would say it's like a partnership. Many a times people go into a coach or a mentee mentor relationship, expecting the mentor to do everything for the mentee. But at the end of the day, right, I believe it's the teachability that counts because it's a partnership that the mentor and mentee they are forming. And you're definitely one of those my coaches that really shine, because of your commitment and your eagerness to constantly grow and to learn more. Yeah.
Well, Jackie, I agree with you as well. Teachability is indeed an important trait to have, because eventually as we
Mm.
start to take on more students, we start to have opportunities to impact people's life. We also want to make sure that they also want their life to be impacted as well, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe we just hop into our focus today, which is NLP. Jackie, can you just share with everybody what is this thing called NLP? And how did you get exposed and eventually fall in love with this very strange discipline?
Wow, that's a very good question. In fact, my own journey as a NLP practitioner can be traced back to say about maybe 20 years or more than 20 years ago. So I remember back then I was at the crossroads of my own life, and now you may find it hard to believe. So I used to be this guy, plagued with several self-limiting beliefs. So I remember during my late teens, I was someone who had this serious lack of self-confidence, low self-esteem. And it was during that juncture where someone introduced me to NLP. So of course, back then I was like, what exactly is this NLP, neuro linguistics programming, makes it even, harder for me to truly grasp, what this tool is really all about. But essentially, right, what NLP is, if I were to summarize it, it's just simply the science of influence, or you can even say it's the art of modeling. Now, because at the end of the day, it is your ability to influence, now not just those around you, but essentially as well as how you can influence yourself, that can truly make a difference in your life. And so when I chance upon NLP as a tool, that transformed my life. Of course, it's not overnight. It took me months. And but before I knew it, that was where I began to develop and regain that confidence that I lacked, during my late teen years. So yeah, in a nutshell, I would like to term NLP as the science and art of influence, although it is definitely much more than that. It's very hard, just to sort of define it in just a minute. But essentially, it is the art and science of influence, influencing not just those around you, but as well as to influence the most important person is our own selves.
Yeah. So, what aspect about NLP that was very attractive to you? Yeah, we understand NLP is all about influence, so that's what it does. But as because you mentioned that you also had a lot of self-esteem challenges at the past, right? So NLP helped you overcome this self-esteem, but yet there was this influence or there's this element of influence. So, what made you attracted to discover more about this discipline?
Wow. So, apparently because of, and I think it's a two-way thing, because of that lack of confidence. So for years, I realized that I used to struggle when I'm communicating with those around me. I just don't seem to be able to interact well with people. And that's where, the science of NLP came into play, because using some of the skills that I learned in NLP, it allowed me to truly understand what goes into the mind of, individuals when we are talking to them. And also one thing that I've truly learned from NLP is this essence that different strokes work for different folks. And that, every one of us are truly wired. We call it wired in a very different way in making decisions and doing, behaving in a certain way. And so through this discipline of NLP, that was able to help me to better understand, and not just that, being able to empathize, with what makes people do the things they do. I mean, think about that, Vernon. Isn't it important that we are able to empathize and understand, And for example, as a sales coach myself, I realized that if you're not able to empathize and truly comprehend what is going on at the back of the mind of our customers or prospects, now then it will be impossible for us to truly, step into their shoes and be able to help them to solve their problems. So that's what I believe NLP has truly empowered me to achieve over the years, and I've actually equipped many others with the same tools as well.
Wow, Jackie, that's good insight to know that NLP actually help to understand how people actually function, because different strokes for different folks. Now let's go into the professional environment, right, and understand how can NLP help a professional, like a career person, somebody that is looking to move forward in their life, especially in the professional environment where he works in a team, has different people, have stakeholders, have bosses, has team to manage. How does NLP fit into this larger equation?
Okay, so I mean, essentially, there are three key areas that NLP covers, and I call them, the management of these three P's. Now, what are these three P's? First of all, we start off with this thing called the managing your psychology. Now, because as I mentioned earlier on, unless you are able to influence yourself, you will not be able to truly learn how to influence those around you. So number one, it basically equips me with a better mindset, on how I can deal with my own challenges. Now, so that when I meet people, I will be more empowered to deal with them. Second P is what I call management of priorities. So what you say, why do we want to learn to master our priorities? See, at the end of the day, we realize that in this world, especially today, the world that we are living in, now, what do you think is the most important asset out there that many people are not able to truly master? Is this thing called the time. Now, having said that, right, you and I also know that there's no such thing as a time management, because Everyone has 24 hours a day. So what truly make, people who are successful, hugely successful, is that, successful people all know about this thing called priorities management. So being able to manage your priorities, knowing what you truly value, your higher purpose in life. Now, NLP has allowed and empowered many individuals to be more effective and more productive at what they do, so that they can actually get more things done, in the shortest possible time, and things that truly give them, results and make them feel fulfilled. Now, of course, the last thing is basically what many people are here for, I believe, is that NLP also equips people with the ability to manage people around you more effectively. Now, again, when I talk about managing people, people tend to have this idea that, managing people is about, trying to influence, manipulate them, to do certain things. But, essentially, right, NLP is all about understanding what this person is really going through. Because when we are able to truly empathize with them, and that's where we are able to use, for example, certain linguistics tools to be able to help them to uncover, what are their blind spots, and in the midst of it, being able to help them to solve their problems. Because one thing that we believe in NLP is this, people already have that resources available in them to solve any kind of problems. And, our job, is simply to be able to coach them, to be able to see those blind spots. And that helps them to resolve their issues on their own.
Thanks, Jackie, for sharing that. I really like what you said just now, as NLP really does help us to better understand other people, as well as the fundamentals of NLP, which is we already have the resources that we need to actually engage and
That's
achieve
right.
the goals and objectives that we want. So let's narrow down to NLP and communication with other people. All right. So now we are on a digital platform, right? I know that as an NLP trained person myself, we have different modalities, right? So
Yes, right.
maybe Jackie, would you like to share briefly a little bit about what are modalities and how does it actually affect this online interaction?
Okay, I think talking about modalities, I believe, Vernon, you're referring to this different representation systems that people have. So I'm sure most of you have probably heard this before, that there are different kinds of people. In fact, I wouldn't like to say, different kinds of people, because all of us have these 4 different modalities. Now, it's just that we have preferences in which, the kind of modality that we tend to use when we are communicating to those around us. So essentially, we have this called the visual modality, and which represents people who are more inclined towards forming pictures in their mind. When you're talking to them. An example, of course, would be Vernon yourself. Definitely. And then we have people who are more auditory by nature. Auditory meaning to say that these people are more inclined towards what they hear, from you. And then we have people who are kinesthetic representing the emotions, the feelings. And finally, this last modality, which not many people would talk about it, is this thing called the auditory digital. What is auditory digital? By the way, strictly speaking, it's not exactly a modality by its own, but auditory digital simply refers to a group of people that you and I probably have met them before. They like to go into what I call a self-talk mode. In fact, most of us have ever been there before, right? Where we seem to be like talking to ourselves. Then, you realize that there are people who will get more frequent into that mode.
So Jackie, what you mean is that people who talk to themselves are not weirdos.
Yeah, of course. We all talk to ourselves, right? Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. Yeah.
Yes. And you can sometimes it's so interesting when, for example, we use that in sales. When we talk to our customers, there are times you can clearly see, whether this person is in a visual, which modality is that person in. Like auditory digital, you tend to see this person. They tend to move their eyes, for example, to their bottom left. And sometimes it might even be accompanied with like facial expressions, like there's some slight movement of their mouth because they seem to be talking to themselves. So these are some signs, that you could actually detect to know if this person is in an auditory digital mode.
I see. Right. So now we are all online, right? So
Yes.
how does it affect our communication with people, and how can we overcome this? This is most important, which is why our viewers tuning today are the tips that you get to share. How can we?
Yes.
What are the things that we need to do to overcome this communication preference of other people now that we are completely frozen on this digital platform?
Absolutely. Now, at the end of the day, we just need to realize that communication, takes place via three means. I like to call them the three V's. Okay, what are the three V's? Is basically number one is based on what people see, when you are saying certain things, and that's the visual aspect, the first V. The second aspect is where we talk about this vocal representing how you say it. So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. For example, if I say, let me think about it, versus, if your customer says, right, let me think about it. It definitely gives a very, very different, impression of what this person is feeling. And of course, finally, we have this thing called verbal, which are the words that we use. So now, why is it important to know these three V's? Because at the end of the day, we human beings can only communicate via these three means. In other words, if you're able to find a way to communicate effectively via these three means, now whether it's offline or online, you see, Vernon, I truly believe that it doesn't truly make a difference. Now, of course, what I believe would be the biggest challenge that many people face would be that learning curve of using technology to communicate. I mean, I've coached many sales professionals myself, and one of these common challenges that they always cite to me would be that, Jackie, how can I truly present to my customer online, facing this the laptop? So tips like, for example, even as right now as I'm talking to you, you notice that I'm just not looking at the screen. One of the biggest mistake that people make is that they tend to look at the screen while they are actually communicating to people online. But look at the camera instead. That will really help you to still maintain that connection. Now, even though you may not be present physically, but this person will be able to feel you and connect with you. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great tip, Jackie. So to create that connection, now we have to make sure we look at the camera itself.
Absolutely.
Instead of looking at the screen, right? So
Yes.
this is quite interesting insight, because this actually overcomes one of the one of the communication preferences of other people. Okay.
Yes.
So let's just what are some of the other tips? For example, let's say I'm a salesperson right now. I'm trying to communicate with my prospect. I'm trying to explain to him the benefits of my products, and so on and so forth. I have, of course, a PowerPoint slide being presented and stuff like that. What are the tools that we can use from a communication and a precision language perspective a salesperson can use to actually increase the conversion of his sales pitch?
Good question. Now, ultimately, I will sum this up, this answer with this. I believe that too many salespeople are telling too much, and while instead of selling. Now, what's the difference between telling and selling? Now, when you tell, basically you're just telling your customers how good your products are, which is, what we tend to do, whenever we are actually speaking to, especially we're talking to a laptop, because we're unable to truly detect, how this person is feeling. But one way that one tip that I realized worked truly very well for me, as well as many of my clients, is that when we learn to ask questions, and this is where the precision questioning model comes into play. So one of the tools that we teach in NLP is this tool called meta models, which basically requires us to understand what so based on the conversation that we have with our customers, now try to use questions to engage them. Because remember, right, the more you can get your customers to talk to you, the more they're sharing things with you, now the higher will be your chances of converting them from a prospect into a customer. So essentially, I would sum it up with, asking more questions and, talking less. And that's a very, very important thing to do when it comes to communicating online.
Right. So Jackie, we have two very important tips already that we can learn to improve our online communication skills. First, we look at the camera. Okay, look at the camera. Either you look at the camera or you open your eyes very big so that it looks like you're looking at both the screen and the camera at the same time. Yeah. So first, look at the camera. The second thing is that we have to learn to ask them questions, right? So to keep them continuously being engaged. So Jackie, maybe can I just ask you? I know this is very expensive information you're going to share. Can I just ask you? Maybe can you give us two good questions salespeople out there can use to actually precisely create the kind of output from their prospects?
Okay, that's a very good question. Now, in fact, there are many different kinds of questions that you can ask, and it's also important for us to know before we ask any kind of questions. I believe it's more important for us to know what is our intent of asking that question. So, are we asking that question to do some fact finding, or are we basically asking a question, just to lead our customer? So we call this a leading question. A very good question that I tend to ask my customers so that I can actually precisely, fact find, what are their challenges is this question. I would say, Mr. Customer or Mr. Prospect, now, in your opinion, what will be your 3 top challenges that you're currently facing during this season? That you believe, if you're able to address these challenges, that can help your business to grow to the next level. Now, you might ask, Jackie, why do I need to ask or quantify a 3? Good question, because the thing is this. Now, at a conscious level, whenever you ask a question, especially when a sales professional asks a prospect a question, now the tendency for a prospect is to what? You'd be very defensive. Am I right, Vernon? You'd
Yes,
be like,
absolutely.
well, why is this
like why is this guy talking to me, right?
Yeah. Okay. So in order to sort of disarm them, so one of the things, this is called a pattern interrupt in NLP. So we ask them a question where we quantify, in your opinion, what would be 3 key challenges that you like to address? Now, in this way, most customers or your prospects wouldn't be prepared to answer a question like this. Now, when you do this, it actually forces them out of their comfort zone, because that will get them to think and give you, the real facts that you really need from them. Now, unfortunately, today is a short session that we have. Usually I'll just draw it out, using a diagram. This is what I call the subconscious wants of the customers. Now, because most of the time, salespeople talk too much about, they ask questions to find out just about the facts and the needs. But what you want to be able to do is to find out the wants and the desires, which are things which are the emotions.
Thanks,
Yes.
Jackie. Maybe we just share the final tip for everybody here for the professionals who are not salespeople. Okay, maybe they are in a situation where they are either going for an interview, having a review, having a debrief. What is a good posture from a choice of words perspective a person should adopt to create their best impact from the virtual realm, right? That means how should a professional talk that is different offline and online? To be better online.
Okay, so I would say, essentially online, offline, to me, it doesn't really make a huge difference as long as you're able to learn how to harness into that technology. For example, words, there are certain words that would still work, whether you are on the online or offline presence. Like, for example, if you're talking about the VAK that we just talked earlier on about. So one way that, because when we are talking to someone online, and let's say this is a new person, you do not know about this person very well. One good way is that when I use my words, I'll be very conscious about the words I use so that I could establish that rapport with them. So this tip that I have for everyone here is to use what I call the right predicates in talking to them and using a variety of them. So for example, I say, hey, Vernon, I can see, what you are saying, and it definitely connects with me. Now, notice what I've just done is that I've actually used the visual predicate. I can see what you're saying, which is your auditory. And then what? Let me connect. I can connect with this.
Right.
So, what happens is that, yeah.
Yeah, so you use all 3 in a single sentence. That's where you actually bypass the conscious filter and actually hit all 3, and then you get the connection through that.
Yeah, because people have, what I call their favorite words, the way that they represent things in their mind. So by using certain words, for example, if I could talk to my interviewer, some of this person just feels like, I just like this person, because this happens at a very subconscious level.
Wow, wow. This is
Mm.
a very important tip. Hey, hi Desmond. Yes, VAK, visual
Hey, that's
audio kinesthetic. Hey Desmond. Yeah, so looks like he still remember his lessons of NLP from so many years ago. Now, friends, if you are just joining us for the first time, do like and share this video as well as to start a watch party so that more people can actually hop on and check out this video about how we can use precise communication. We're actually on the topic right now on how do we choose certain words to create connections. And Jackie actually pointed out that the best way to do it is to actually use all of the three predicates in a single question or statement, right?
yeah.
Yeah, to
Yes.
create that kind of connection. So it's like, hey Vernon, I see what you're trying to do. It sounds very good to me, and I can definitely connect to your idea.
Mm.
So you
Yeah.
actually have all three in a single statement. That is
Mm.
quite a good insight. So I think the topics that we covered, the three tips you have shared today, Jackie, was incredible. One tip is to look at the camera instead of the screen so that the connection level is there. Second
Yes.
one is to ask questions, ask leading questions, and
Mm.
get the other person to be responding to your question so that the connectivity is there. And the
Mm.
third tip is while you are doing it, right,
Mm.
use the VAK, use the all of the
Mm.
the different kind of audio, video, and
Mm.
kinesthetic wording inside your statements, so that they will feel that there's actually some connection with the person, right?
Absolutely.
That's why
In fact,
is that why Jackie you feel that online offline no difference to you?
now, see, Vernon, if I could just add this final words, to me, it's very important that sometimes people I get so excited about using the different tools, techniques to be more effective online. Now, I just want to conclude by saying this. At the end of the day, whether we're doing it online or offline, of course, many of us have no choice right now that we have to connect with many of our customers online. Now, just remember this: as long as we are creating value to the lives of those around us. When we learn to sell with our heart, somehow, all these tools will just flow very, very naturally because, people can actually feel you, even though, you actually speaking to them online. So, if I were you, the most important thing is this, I'll be thinking more in terms of when I'm talking to this person, and I'm talking to Vernon right now. Now, ask yourself this question: how can I truly add value to this other party? How can I add value to my potential employer, to my a potential customer? Now, because when you're able to do that, there's this thing called, what is everyone's favorite radio station? Have you heard of this before, Vernon?
Of course, I learned it from you.
So everyone's favorite radio station. Now, just write this down. If you've not heard this before, is this radio station called WIIFM, which simply means what's in it for me. So as long as you're tuned in, you're turn on this radio station to a WIIFM, what's in it for your prospects, the person that you're connecting to. Now, I'm sure that you're going to find that, you'll be able to influence this person much more easily than you could possibly have imagined.
Yeah, so this is about framing, right? This is about
Framing,
framing a
absolutely.
particular proposal to
Yes,
appeal to the value creation of the other party.
absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a very powerful insight. So Jackie, we would like to transit on to the next part of our conversation. I mean, great session. Definitely, thank you, Jackie, for sharing your very valuable tips for us. As a coach and
Sure.
a consultant, I know every time people ask you for advice, you got to pay money, right? So thanks for hopping in. Now we're gonna have some questions
All
sent
right.
in before,
Mm,
and I'm gonna ask you these questions and see what's your take on this, and let's have a discussion. Because of work from home, there's less water cooler talk happening among
mm,
older and newer colleagues. That means basically it's a comradeship and a team building question we're having here. Because
mm,
as you and I know, Jackie, relationships are
mm.
built in between all the official events, and then now we only have
Yes.
official events and we don't have those in betweens. So Jackie, how
Mm,
would you suggest to the business
mm,
owners, bosses out there, to create that
mm.
kind of connection still, despite the fact there's no more water cooler to go and hang out with at?
Wow, this is a very good question. It just reminds me of a recent post I shared on, I think I can't remember, was it on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I shared this thing about, don't practice social distancing, but practice physical distancing. Now, in other words, many a times when we talk about, social distancing, many people had this impression that, I should just isolate myself, but, you got to understand that we human beings, we are relational creatures. So in other words, we're created in this manner that we need to relate to people, or else, we're going to have, fall into like depression, things like this. So how can I still practice, social interaction with people, even though, I'm not able to get close to them physically? So, for example, one thing that I would do is that I would have to initiate, for example, meetups, so that I can actually connect with my friends, connect with my customers. In fact, this is a very good time for you to sow the seeds as you talk to your customers and try to find out what, they are going through, things like this. So I actually believe, to sum it up, it's important that we still continue to maintain that, social interaction. Remember, we should just practice physical distancing, but do not practice social distancing.
And Jackie, this is an incredible insight that you just shared, because there was a psychologist that published a paper online. He was pitching against this word social distancing. You know what I mean? In fact, we should practice socializing from a distance.
Socializing.
Yes. Socializing from a distance. So this guy was angering a different way. Actually, it sounds like, Jackie, your suggestion is to change our mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah, change our mindset. I think there was a time, long time ago, that somebody thought that when you take a photo, you capture their soul, so they avoided taking pictures. Or if you make phone calls, right, the relationship becomes weaker if you make a phone call. Right, those were the days. I guess technology is catching up with us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jackie, for these questions. Now,
my pleasure.
Yeah, if anybody want to pop in any questions, now is the time. If not, we will be wrapping up our conversations once we finish these final questions. For our guest here, Jackie, there is prepared questions that were sent in a bit earlier. So next question they ask is, hey Jackie, what would you suggest for a professional today who is used to working in person? Now he's on this platform and is struggling with communicating with his colleagues and bosses online. What would you suggest he or she do immediately after this to improve his communication skills?
Just like any skill that we want to master, there is a learning curve that we have to go through. Unfortunately, I would say, there are really no shortcuts out there. And I always believe that that's the reason why, I always believe in, anticipating, doing more anticipation in the future. In fact, this whole episode actually taught me one very important lesson that, many a times, there's this saying, in life, Vernon, that people change for two reasons. You know what are the two reasons? Now, they either change, right, through desperation, okay, or they can either change through inspiration. So now, but unfortunately, most people, unconsciously choose the former, because, when things are good, I do not have to learn this, I don't have to learn that, and, when times, like this, take control. I've realized many of my trainer friends, for instance, they feel handicapped because now they have to go through that process, of learning all these skills. But having said that, no condemnation here. We can always start. It's never too late to start a new skill. But we need to go through this learning curve. And so I would say, probably you can just get yourself, familiarized with the different kind of tech tools. If we're talking about this, Vernon, is the first time that I'm actually using this, this StreamYard tool with you, right? I'm just a living example, of constantly learning and growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't start off with 100%, but as long as you're committed, it's all about a mindset again. Put it this way. So when you have the right mindset, I believe that there's no big challenge for us.
Wow, thank you for the inspirational sharing, Jackie. Truly, people change for only two reasons: desperation or inspiration. But if they don't change, then they face annihilation. Yeah. So thanks. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Special thanks to my mentor of many years, Jackie. Thanks for hopping in. You are my secret weapon when when I was a university student back then. I actually learned NLP from you, the analogies, the communication, the meta models, the Milton
Mm.
models, even the slide of mouth techniques, all were picked up through my interactions with Jackie. And he was very
Mm.
kind to me lah. At that time, I was a young student. He was willing to take me under his wing, guide me and teach me a little bit about how to communicate in a more effective and persuasive manner. So thanks very much, Jackie.
Mm.
And I
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
you
me.
hopping on tonight's program. I really look forward to having you more in the future whenever the need arises. So, dear friends, if you found this session to be very meaningful, do like, do share. After this video is over, it will be still available for 24 hours. So, if you know any friends that might benefit from this conversation, please do copy the link and share with them. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to Jackie, you can definitely check Jackie out at www.jackielim.com, and I'm sure he's more than happy to answer your questions. With that, thank you everybody so much. Thank you, Jackie, once again. I
Thank
look
you.
forward, to meeting you up with you in person, for a cup of Teh C Kosong at Yakun soon.
Yes,
Okay.
very soon.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Yeah, good evening.